That's good. Hi. What's wrong here? What's going on? Why can't I hear? Where's my thing? Why can't I get any proper feedback? Okay, there we go. There we go. Why was this all fucked up? It doesn't matter. Hi. The important thing is that I'm here. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday stream here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel here on YouTube. I am Warren, and we are going to be talking about professional wrestling for a while here this evening. Hope you're in for it. Hope you're into it. Hope you're excited about it. My monitoring is all fucked up for some reason. Why is my monitoring fucked up? Okay, like this. Is this better? Like that. My monitoring's fucked up. Okay, this is all right. I know it's as if someone came in and goofed around with my settings and we're just going like this with the knobs earlier while I wasn't around. People who are adept in malfeasance. Welcome, everyone. It's a lovely time to be alive on this Thursday to talk about professional wrestling. Hope you are all having a lovely week so far. It's just about done. For me, it is. I am one day away from the shoot job vacation, so that'll be lovely. Again, you know, not that I hate my job, not that I want to escape it. That is not it. If I wanted to escape it, I'd quit. But, you know, like I said previously, sometimes you just separate a little bit, you know, miss each other a little bit. Like, oh, I wish I had him back around. Well, you know, just like that. And then you show back up and it's like, oh, it's the honeymoon all over again, right? Sure. That's how it works every time with work and vacation. But, you know, hey, you know, this weekend, like I'm kicking it off nice and proper with an All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view experience, live experience. So I'm excited for that. I've been wondering if how shit the merch table is going to be. It's not even a question of, you know, what kind of, I wonder what they're going to have, you know, just wondering how shit it's going to be. Because most of my experiences with AEW merchandise tables have all been trash, particularly the All-In one, because they ran out of stuff so fucking early, and I don't understand. Like this is, like you have your hardcore captive audience captive. Like you literally have them all in the same building, and these are all people who are just dying to give you their money. So why aren't you just like dumping in thousands of pounds upon thousands of the All-In hat and so on and so forth? But no. For a t-shirt company, they stink at selling them. Other than that, I'm very excited to be there. I'm very excited to go. But, you know, if anyone from AEW is listening right now, I'm ready to give you some money. I'm ready to look at the wares and pick out a couple of things. I will have my credit card. I will be ready to pay money. Just so you know. Anyway, loving everything, loving the times, loving stuff, and it'll be a lot more lovely once I'm on vacation. Travis, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Travis also happens to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It is nice to see you. King of the North is here as well. How are you doing, Evan? Brilliant to see you, chum. Old bean. You were playing with knobs? Yeah, I bet you were. Welcome. It's nice to see you. Meggy O'Kenna, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also, a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It is lovely to see you. Mr. Antox, nice to see you as well. All fantastic to see you. I will not have Canadian rubber bucks though. I know better now. No one takes the rubber bucks anymore. No one accepts cash anymore. There used to be a time where, you know, it was legitimately the opposite. It's like you could, you know, you couldn't go anywhere if you didn't have cash. Most people, do you take a card? We don't take no card. You know, cabs particularly, that was fucking annoying. You'd have to order specifically a cab that takes credit cards. And then the guy would have like the, you know, the old machines, the old chunk machines, they were like rollers. What do they call them? Ka-chunk chunk. And he'd have the little slip, and then he'd fill it out, and then he'd give it to you, and you'd sign it. You add a tip. Thank you, sir. Then he'd give you the carbon copy, and you'd be off. But you'd have to order them, right? Because if you just hailed one, most of the time they're like, no cards. Okay. I was never much of a cash guy anyway. I never really carried cash around. I always liked the cards. I always liked the plastic. It's like now I like the phone. I like just going up with boop, boop with the phone. I don't have to pull out the wallet. It's crazy how the little things from the past have now become like inconveniences now that we've discovered something more convenient, you know? Ergo, like paying with your phone directly. You know, before cards, you had to pull out your money and then you had to count it, and you know, the coins and all this fucking shit, you know? Then they give you change, and then you take the change, and then you'd argue, so no, you gave me change for a 10, I gave you a 20. I don't remember you giving me a 20, brother. I gave you a 20, you know, all those things. Very, very, very complicated. So then you get the cards and you're like, ooh, the card's so much smoother. You're just like, yeah, you give him the card and then chick, and he punches in the numbers and you punch in your pin. And then it's like, transaction goes through, exact money and so on and so forth. But now you're like, I gotta look through my cards. I gotta find the right one. I gotta give it to the dude. You know, all that stuff. It's fucking annoying. I was just like, beep boop, beep boop. Everything okay? Okay, hang on. Something's going on here, and I don't like it. Whoa. What's happening? Something's happening. Everything is fucking lagging. I'm frozen. At least the stream is still up. What is going on? Hang tight there, folks. Wonder what that was all about. That was very strange. Like everything started sort of like to freak out. Hang on. We're going to try some plans here. Oh, my phone. I didn't even mute my phone. Bear with me here. Do this. Do this. Seems to be get all right? Everything seems to be okay. That was very strange. Well, I guess like, okay. I think I may have unnecessary windows open here. that shutting a few things down might help. It's crazy how your web browser eats up so many resources. I mean, on your machine, regardless, right? Regardless of Mac or PC, just like completely eats up your system resources. It's 2026, and we haven't figured out a way for browsers to work in an optimal state, but also be completely optimized underneath as well. Weird. Seems to be okay now. Seems to be okay. Oh, wait, don't remember what I was talking about. It doesn't matter. No, you're talking about money and cards and whatnot and payments. All right. It's fine. It was dumb anyway. Old Bean reminds me of old Danger Mouse episodes. That's a good callback. I like that. At All Out in Toronto, I've never seen this before. You could pre-purchase your merch and then go pick it up without getting in line. Maybe that's why they ran out. Remember when you needed a coin to get a shopping cart so a grocery store could take more money of your money? I'm fortunate enough to live next to 2 supermarkets. And one of them just recently, fairly recently, I'd say like 3 months ago, dumped doing just that. Where you have a coin, you leave like a deposit, a $1 deposit, and they give you a coin that you can use to unlock the fucking baskets because they're afraid people will flee with them, will run away and won't bring them back. And I'm like, listen, if someone really wants to steal, a grocery basket, I'm pretty sure that the trade-off of $1 will be fine, right? Like, that's not a deposit that makes you reconsider whether or not you should steal this vehicle. Well, I mean, some people might use it for those purposes. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's crazy, dude. It changes nothing. The people who want to make off with it are going to make off with it regardless. They're just leaving you $1. And then you're going to be out of tokens. And then you're going to have to order more, and then things are going to get more expensive, and it's your own damn fault. Like, it doesn't work. I can't imagine how that shit worked. You have 3 $20 bills in your wallet at all times. The rest is card. So I think, Evan, the next wise thing for you to do right now would be to share your exact location. So all the muggers in the chat can go figure out, can go dispose of those 3 crisp 20s. Get off Pornhub? No, you're not gonna tell me what to do. No one tells me what to do. The coin is used as a barrier for entry. They give the token back in Europe. Yeah, same here. But like, the point being is that if you want to steal the thing, right? If you want to first, okay, there's 2 thoughts to this ultimately that I have. The first thought is, if you want to steal the basket, if you are minded to bring the basket home, to, take it to your local junk shop and sell off the parts or whatever, you're going to do it regardless. Because if you're going to bring it home and strip it down and go sell the scrap, you're going to be making more than $1. You know what I mean? So it's a simple investment. So it's not going to keep anyone from doing it. That's one thing. Second of all, what I don't like one of the things that I dislike the most when I go to any store is when the default stance that the store has is, our customer are all thieves. Yeah, it's like, because that's how it was explained to me. It's like, well, people, some people, they leave with the baskets. They just steal the baskets. I'm like, okay, I'm not some people. Can I just have a basket without all this fucking rigmarole? No, these are the rules. So you're assuming by default that I am also a thief. Like, this is preposterous. It's preposterous. It's It's like a story I used to tell back, a ways back when when video stores were still a thing. When close to one of my apartments, I went, after I moved into the neighborhood, I went to sign up, right, to get a card so I can check titles out and whatnot. And so the guy gives me the form, and on the form on the form they ask you for they asked me for my social security number, my social insurance number, depending on where you live. They were asking me for that. I'm like, and I look at the guy and I'm like, well, I fill out the form, but I don't fill out the thing, right? So I give it back to him. He says, oh, you didn't fill out the social insurance number. I'm like, I'm not giving you my social insurance number. Who are you? Didn't say that, but I did say, well, I'm not giving you my social insurance number. What do you need my social insurance number for? And he flat out says, well, if you ever steal some tapes, we'll know where to find you. I say, what? First of all, you won't know where to find me regardless. That you don't get that kind of information with a social insurance number. The government basically is the only person who should have access to that number, because they're the ones that give it out. And why do you assume I'm going to steal tapes? Why do you assume out the gate that I'm going to steal tapes? I argued with the guy. Said it doesn't make sense. And I straight up told him, you're not a bank. I'm not giving you a social insurance number. You're not a bank. You're a guy. You're a guy with a hole in the wall, renting out about 50 tapes a week. No, I'm not. Those are the rules. If you want, you can go find your movie somewhere else. All right, buddy. That was a scam. Now that I think about it, like 30 years later, this was legitimately a scam. Legit scam. They don't trust you before they enter the store. That's right. The coin is so that they don't pay an extra employee to gather carts. Listen, at some point, what the fuck are you paying for, right? It's like when I do my groceries, this is going to sound really petty, okay? This is going to sound really fucking petty, okay? I understand that, price of everything is high, and all corporations and companies are coping as best they can to curb prices and whatnot. But if I go do the groceries and there are baggers who are there, and I get a big grocery order for like the week, like I feed 3 people here, okay? So there's a lot of stuff. I expect, especially for the price I'm paying my groceries, I expect someone to fucking bag them. I should not be expected to go to the checkout and then bag them all myself. Walk around, pick them up, buy for them, and bag them myself? Hang on a minute. We used to be a society. There should be standards. There should be standards. And if you go to I know there's supermarkets where you do it yourself, not just self-checkout, but you bag, you could go to the checkout and then you have to bag your stuff. And it's like, that's a choice you make. That's fine. If you go there and you're saying to yourself, that's fine, I'll bag my groceries, all the more power to you. And if I go there, I won't say a word, obviously. But if I go to a supermarket where there's baggers and there's like 4 aisles open, but there's 3 baggers, and it turns out that the 4th bagger is absent from my aisle, my checkout line. So no, we're gonna wait around until someone frees up so that they can come do it. Or the girl running the cash is gonna do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not bagging my groceries. Like, this is bare fucking minimum service. Or else I'll go to the self-checkout and do it myself. But guess what? I didn't go to the self-checkout to do it myself because I wanted someone else to do it. Because I am paying these groceries at this price, which includes your fucking markup. so that, whatever, to pay your staff and whatnot to do a job. So have them do their job. Warren remembers when people used to wear suits on airplanes. I just put my cooler bags on the belt with the groceries, so they have to take it off the belt and set it somewhere. That's a good idea. My older cousin used to work at Jumbo Video, and he'd always have to call people about late returns and stuff. Yeah, but he didn't need their social insurance number, brother. That's the thing. Didn't need that. Like, oh, we'll know where to find you. No, you won't. And this is this is the one thing you should not be giving out. Warren won't bag groceries, but will cultivate his user social media experience with Dear Algo posts. Hey, to each their own. What do you want? What do you want from me? Those are for free. I give those for free. Those posts are free. My groceries are not. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Hope you're ready for some pro wrestling talk. We're going to get into it as soon as you leave a like on this stream. That's right. You're going to leave a like on this stream, and you're going to like it too. Hey, by the way, Carlos, Sports and Things Shows. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. So that's that. What are we talking about tonight? Well, we're talking about a bunch of things. We're gonna be previewing the Redemption show. We're going to be talking about that tremendous very positive news of regarding Busted Open Radio and the rest. We got some stuff here. We got some stuff to talk about. We'll see on the docket in a second. But first, as you know, this is G1 season, and I am doing currently in the midst of my daily G1 Climax 36 coverage. Daily coverage on top of that. So I've been doing reviews and thoughts and opinions on every day of the G1 so far. We are up to 5 as it stands now, and we will be returning this weekend for days 5 and 6 over there in Tokyo at they're at Ota City, right? They're at the Ota City gym. So if you're into that, look, there's multiple reasons why you'd like to listen to my daily coverage. Maybe because, you want to learn about the G1. Maybe you don't have time to really watch every day of the G1, but you have time to listen to a podcast about, 35, 40 minutes in length, breaking down everything that's happening just to keep up with the tournament. That's another very good use as well. That's what I provide. That's what I provide to you. Not a lot of people are doing the daily coverage, right? There's of course famously Joe Lanza, who is doing that. He's been doing that for years. He's the pro, he's the master, he's the top guy. So, you can turn to him. There's I believe Karen Peterson over at Post is doing that as well. And Karen's great too. And then there's me, and I'm pretty good as well. I'm up there. Can put me on a certain level. What a sales pitch. But it's a great time of year, and quite frankly, if we have time, I might talk about it a little more. But I think the G1 is off to a pretty good start so far. 5 nights in, and we've had some pretty good nights, and I'm very optimistic for the rest, which is probably famous last words and so on and so forth. But do check it out. Subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single thing. And it'll be my pleasure to continue to regale you with my thoughts and so on. And by the way, I give you recommendations on top of that. What you should watch, what you shouldn't. Well, there you go. There you go. So do that. Follow that. And then the Dynamite review was out earlier today. Talking about the big go home show for Redemption this weekend. So we've got that out of the way as well. That out of the way as if it's a burden. and the Mr. Warren Hayes show as well was released on audio podcasts audio podcast, which is still a fairly new thing. I think this is like the fourth week that I release, third or fourth that I release the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on audio platforms only. So that's available there. If you're wondering if you're on YouTube and you're like, where's the Mr. Warren Hayes Show? It's not coming, brother. It's never coming. It's never coming again on YouTube. Ever again. Never, ever. I shouldn't say that. But it's available on your favorite podcast applications. So there you go. That's what we have going. That's what we have lined up. And coming up, AEW Redemption pay-per-view review. That, of course, is going to happen. I will be on location giving you the review you will have will be live, will be from someone live in the building watching the show in person. Not a lot of other review programs will be able to boast about that. They won't be able to say, hot diggity. They won't be able to say, I was there live like Warren Hayes. No, they won't. So that I will give you the perspective you need. I will be there on location and I will be reviewing and rating the matches live. You know, maybe I'll skip the Maya World match. Maybe I won't review that one. Who knows? It's a good way to get people to talk about you. It brings a lot of attention. You know, I think it's a good thing. So considering that, there will not be a stream here on the channel on Monday, as that's probably where I'm going to be recording the review and packing that up and then tossing it over. But members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel here on YouTube, remember, do get early access to it before everyone else. So if you want to get the review as soon as it pops out my cake hole, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and it's all yours. It'll be all yours before everyone else. Not just subscribe, become a member. Become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. And then it'll be released later on in the week for all of the freeloaders. So I think that's pretty much it, right? I think I covered everything. That's all the haps. Those are all the happenings. That's the stuff that's coming up, and I hope you're excited for more Warren Hayes content. Rory Starks, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. What the fuck, Warren? Answer for these crimes. What I do? What did I do? I will be your hero. Just ask me to. Warren will be directly behind a canopy pylon in row LL section G. Yes. But the seat was cheap. The seat was very cheap. Hey, not very expensive tickets. Not to reignite something or ignite something. I think I paid, I could have gotten better seats, but I like being I like being in the bowls. I like being in the bowl. When I go see a wrestling show, I like being in the bowl. And $76, which I thought was very fucking reasonable. That was really, really good. $76. I mean, not the greatest seats. I've had better, but for $76, nice little trip to Montreal. It'll be very lovely. So that'll be cool. Very reasonably priced. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to shouting "You stink" to Ray Rougeau in French. Tu pues! That's what I'll be shouting. The guy that you'll be hearing there during the ceremony will be screaming at the top of your lungs, "Tu pues, Raymond!" That'll be me. Raymond! Raymond! Tu peux! That's all I'll be saying. Chris, tu peux! That's what I'll be saying to Ray Rougeau. Someone's got to heckle him. It'll be me. I'll try to get a chant going. You stink! You stink! You stink! Tu peux. Anyway. Warren yelling Claudius from the Sting seats. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. All right. All right. Yes, become a member to hear all the Warren Hayes K-Hole content you can handle. That's probably the best pitch. That's the best pitch I've ever heard for what I do here. How you doing? Let me tell you. Anyway, that's, you know, come for Warren Hayes, but stay for Jacques Moliere.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Woohoo!
I'm a nunchuck master. And I represent NWA, Mountain State Wrestling. Hoo-yah!
Do you think I could make a t-shirt of Jacques with the nunchucks and not get sued? Because I could make the t-shirts of Jacques with the nunchucks, shirt, tie, his Dockers, you know, like you do like a bit of a hair. I'm just gonna mute him here because I don't want him to. You know, you do one of these here, there, you know, one like, what would be a good pose? What would be, maybe the one before when he's holding it, maybe that would have been a good one. You know, he has to have his head up, of course, you know, or maybe that one. Maybe, you know, maybe, you know, like that, you know, or he's got, you see the nunchuck here, he's holding the nunchuck in his right hand and it's flailing up and he's got like his hand like on his hip over his butterfly knife. You think I could do that? Like just like an illustration, not actually like a, you know, hire someone to do some line art and then print some, you know. Yeah, I would be selling it. That's the point, you know. I don't know what. You know, we've tried to track down Jacques because I'd love to have him on the show. I'd love to have him just pop in and talk. We talk about what, you know, talk about how not Nick Aldis, the other guy. Fuck, the other NWA champion. The other GM on WWE. Fuck. Adam Pearce. Like, talk to us about that time that you almost got into a shoot fight with Adam Pearce, which is real. And then tell us about your trip to Disney World that you won from that radio station that one time. Anyway, good for him. I probably won't do it. I would absolutely hate it if someone did that. I just won't do it. Folks, here's our lovely docket for this evening. We've got chock full of stuff to discuss. Yes, we are going to talk about Busted Open. But before we do, maybe just as a little warm-up topic, and maybe just as a topic that, you know, can be quickly dealt with. There's been something weird going around about MJF and the redemption, AEW redemption creative. And look, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about because you're not, you know, terminally hanging out in wrestling group chats and stuff like that, like I am. But we're going to talk. I want to start by talking about. We'll read this article here from the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online by our boy Josh Nason. How you doing, Josh? So even though he hasn't been announced for Sunday's redemption in any form, news has emerged about former AEW World Champion MJF's role in a big match for the pay-per-view. Fightful Select reported on Wednesday, that would be yesterday as to when we're recording this, that MJF was, quote-unquote, the driving creative force behind the world title match between the man that beat him for the gold, Kenny Omega, and TNT champion Kevin Knight. While he specifically didn't say Knight should be the one to challenge Omega, he was apparently heavily behind whoever the TNT champion was challenging for the world title at Sunday's show. The outlet noted that MJF was also in favor of Knight joining the Don Callis family, but has denied it. Not quite sure what that means. Who denied what? MJF denied that? Knight was owed a world title match in the storyline after joining Team MJF for the 12-man cage match main event at Forbidden Door. Our Dave Meltzer previously reported that Omega vs. MJF for the title was set for redemption, but that MJF had pushed for it to be bumped up to the Beach Break Dynamite instead for reasons unknown. Fightful noted MJF is taking some time off. Now, just some free roaming thoughts here about this. This is very curious to me. It's very, very curious. I'm not sure I fully understand. What we're trying to convey here. I don't know what this news. I don't know how much I put stock in it. Look, I know it's Sean. It's Fightful. Sean has a terrific track record. Don't get me wrong. I don't know who he talks to. I have no idea. Right? But I find it a little strange, and I find it even stranger because look, right now it seems like the going theory is that this story was planted, meaning that MJF reached out to Sean and said, "Hey, I'm the guy who made all of this redemption stuff happen. It's all thanks to me, right?" And then Sean runs with it. What I find difficult I find all of this difficult to swallow for two reasons, really. The first reason is, people give MJF so much more credit for controlling creative than he actually does. And that's always my main thing. Everything in that company goes through one guy, one person, and that is Tony Khan. He makes the final decisions on everything. Now, are we naive enough to believe that MJF doesn't have the ear of the boss? That MJF his ideas go through maybe a little more smoothly, that maybe TK is more responsive to them than others? Are we naive enough to think that stuff, is not real? Are we naive enough to think that stuff is all fantasy? No, of course not. We're not that naive into believing that MJF is not able to jockey for his stuff, right? I think that's pretty critical. A bit of information to begin with. I entirely do believe that TK likes MJF and likes him a lot, and MJF probably benefits from that a good, strong relationship with some good ideas that work and pay off. And I mean, look here's the other thing, and this is good for any wrestling promotion that ever existed. The stars of the company, the people who are, at the top of the card, who are bringing in money, who are selling merch, who are pushing tickets and whatnot, generally speaking, the promoter will be much more inclined to listen to what they have to say and propose to the company and to the direction of the promotion than the opposite. And MJF is a bona fide star in the company. He is making more and more of a case for himself as being a top guy that does have business impact. Of course, Tony's going to lend an ear and listen to what he has to say and implement more easily stuff that comes from MJF, especially when the stuff is good. It's not like MJF has had this perfect track record of excellent creative since the start of AEW, right? We all think of the Brochachos, of course. You can even think of Candidate Max. Remember that when he was in a feud with John Moxley, right? And somehow this became an election thing. It's like he tries stuff out. He tries things out, but he ends up refining what he has to offer, and it gets better and better, and the boss likes it more and more. And that's just how it works. So, I have trouble accepting that bit of news, or at least accepting it on the front of MJF made this creative happen, as if suddenly he's got the reins, as if suddenly he's the booker. That to me, it's a bit of a stretch, and it goes against what I understand how AEW works. Because everything is filtered through Tony, and Tony always puts he puts his stamp on everything that goes out. Nothing goes out without Tony's approval. Just as simple as that. The other thing that makes me question the veracity of this, particularly in the idea that MJF planted this story in order to make himself look good, I don't know how this makes MJF look good. Unless you want to take the path of, MJF pushed for a young guy to get a main event slot, and that's very cool. I think you have to look at it this way, where if you're the boss, if you're Tony Khan, and suddenly you hear reports going around in the news saying that one of your talent is taking credit for booking decisions, you're not going to be really happy with that talent. You're going to call him into the office, and you're going to have a nice stern talking to, I think. Like, if MJF did plant this story, if he did, then he's getting, he can get heat backstage. I'm just saying with TK, but with anyone else. Kenny Omega with who's involved in this. And I was like, well, why are you putting yourself over in my stuff? You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people would love to believe that MJF really is a scumbag and he can do it. I have deep reservations in regards to MJF going into business for himself in this circumstance, and then pretending that he's and putting out there that he's the creative mind behind all of this, right? Or here's the other possibility. Here's the most plausible possibility. And I don't want to give the impression that I'm burying anyone at Fightful here. Not Sean, not no one, okay? This is not the intent. But it is entirely possible that maybe MJF exchanged with Sean Ross Sapp about stuff. And maybe he's dropped something to the effect, and I'm speculating here, something to the effect of, yeah, well, I sat around and I talked with TK, and I gave him, he was wondering what to do, and I gave him my thoughts, and I thought Kenny should defend against Kevin Knight at Redemption. And then that suddenly becomes MJF established all the creative for Redemption. You know what I mean? I don't know. Either way, I think either way you slice this, it doesn't quite connect. Even the guess who planted the story angle doesn't hold up. Let's say he did. Let's just say he did. Okay. What's the strategy? What's the strategy? Because there are going to be people backstage that are going to be really fucking upset at him. Tony Khan's going to be upset because he's going to be like, Max, what the fuck? Why are you going around? Taking credit for creative? What is this? You know, I know kayfabe is dead, but Jesus Christ, you know. And then the locker room, Kenny, Kevin, anyone else can then be like, why are you putting yourself over here? You're not in the main event, but you have to make it all about you, type of thing, you know. It just creates heat. Why would he want that? Why would he do that? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. If this story made it to Sean, it's from a reliable source, I would assume, right? There's a very strong chance. Maybe there's something that got lost in translation. Maybe the source understood things a certain particular way, and it's not exactly like that it happened. But I really don't believe Maxwell Jacob Friedman has the amount of creative power that fans online seem to believe he does, other than having the ear of the boss and being a top guy, and since he's a top guy, being able to feed his ideas a little easier, which is normal in pro wrestling. And I definitely don't think he planted it himself. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. I thought it was a goofy story. But that's it. If you choose to believe what this does, let me wrap it up on this. What this does is that if you are someone who believes that MJF truly is a scumbag, he doesn't just play one on TV, he's the real deal. If you believe that, then you will believe this story as MJF trying to put himself over, and you're going to go at this blindly. Here you go. All right. This story sounds like someone is throwing MJF under the bus for killing a pay-per-view main event. I mean, the stories about the reports, that were thrown around, like from Meltzer, saying that MJF was the guy who pushed for Kenny to win the title on television at Beach Break. I have a tendency to believe that those are true. I think he did want that. I think he wanted. I think he wanted Kenny Omega to have more than a month-long reign, because it's written in the fucking stars at this point, kids, that Kenny's losing the title at Wembley, right? So I think he wanted Kenny to have just a little more to chew on than a month's worth, which will probably, because don't forget, there's a there's a fair chance that this is Kenny Omega's last world championship run, right? So I think MJF did that. And why do I think that? Because I would say that there is an understanding amongst a lot of the top guys in the company to want to do the best thing for the for the world championship spot, for the top spot in the company, and no one is really going on ego trips and trying to protect their territory. It feels like it's a lot more of a collaborative effort, a thing where it's like, okay, let's do this. That's much more interesting, so on and so forth. And everyone sort of rises with the tide. Everyone is sort of gets their time to shine in all of this. Which leads me to believe, considering those circumstances, it leads me to believe that Max indeed pushed for Kenny to win the championship because no one is sitting around saying, okay, it's my turn and I have to have a 1700 day reign or whatever the fuck, right? All of the top guys, the A1, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, so on and so forth, they're all consulting and talking and exchanging and hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Apparently it's, I would think, very rich, very, dare I say, a collaborative environment right now there at the top. Right now. Not saying that this is always going to be the way, but right now. So it doesn't surprise me if the decision was made to say, well, why don't we do that with Kenny, right? Have him win beforehand. And then, of course, this has to go through Tony Khan, regardless of what his talent wants. It's the boss that decides. And Tony Khan probably looked at the numbers and said, hey, you know what? Let's do it. Because I got to get big ratings because I need a media deal. I need to renew a media deal down the line. So I need to show that we can do big ratings. And guess what? The gamble paid off. Gamble paid off big time. It was their biggest rating in, 2 years or something like that? And the subsequent weeks, AEW ratings-wise has been doing really, really well. So the payoff was smart. It's like people who say, you should have saved this for pay-per-view, are people who are stuck in 1998, brother. Because the game has changed. Because where does the money come from? Oh, Christ, what a broken record I am, but here we go. Where does the money come from for a modern wrestling promotion in 2026 to be able to be on cable television and have a big time professional outfit? Where does the money come from? TV media deals. It's not the tickets. It's not attendance that fuels this. It is the media deals. So it only makes sense that at the very least once in a while that the company throws a big time match on free TV, right? Does it? That's just common sense at this point. I don't think I think most of you listening understand that, and you're like, yes, Warren, we know, Warren, Jesus fucking Christ. But there's still to this day, there are people who don't seem to have figured it out. Well, they should have saved it for pay-per-view. Well, I mean, probably, especially if this is the state of the pay-per-view. Max versus Kenny Omega was a much bigger main event. Much bigger. And Kenny before the beach break, he was going around talking about how when it comes to the world title, I'm going to have my redemption and all that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It all made sense. That's where they were heading. That's absolutely where they were heading. And then he decided to pull the match on TV instead at beach break. And then they were like, oh, well, okay, now what do we do? Anyway, we're going to review the whole redemption in a second, but we're going to close this off here. We're going to close this off this way. I have no issues believing that MJF was just like, no, let's do this instead. And look, he's out with an injury. Look, remember, right? He hurt his knee in a title defense. Who was it against? Roosh, right? He was in a title defense against Roosh. And he hurt his knee during a match with Roosh. Was it Roosh? Yeah, it was Roosh. And, he had it taped up massively and whatnot, and he worked through it. And Tony Khan said on the call, he worked through the injury. He worked through it. So now he needs just a little time off to get everything back into place. He'll be back soon. So, it turned out good for him too. It's like, well, why don't we put it on Kenny? Kenny will have a longer month, a longer title reign. And me, well, I'll be able to, rehab my knee in the meantime. Yes, I did see TSN putting out the hype video. Christ, they make those hype videos in advance. Holy shit. Can you imagine? Like Beach Break was 2 weeks ago? weeks ago? Yeah, Beach Break was 3 Wednesdays ago. That means they had that in the can over a month ago. Just about a month ago, I should say. That is what baffled me the most. I was like, how did you send this out a month ahead of time, bro? You know, kind of thing. Roosh did the corner drop kick and landed on MJF's leg on the way down. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Yep. Pure accident and no heat on Roosh from what I understand too. I will say if Redemption does worse numbers, which it certainly will, it only benefits Max. Everyone's so sure that it's going to do worse numbers. Worse what numbers than what? Like right now, they have to go under 145,000, which I think is what Forbidden Door did, and Forbidden Door is considered to be right now the smallest, the worst performing pay-per-view that they've had this year. Right? It's 100 Forbidden Door again without the max and all that, 145K. And yet you can only look at that and still say, this is still really good. If that's your worst performing pay-per-view of the year, rats off to you. That was tremendous. So what will be underperforming? Like even if they do 130,000, that is tremendous. You know, if we get around 120 and especially under 120, then be like, okay. But 130, 140, and especially if it stays in the vicinity of Forbidden Door. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out in a couple of days. We'll find out if Kevin Knight is a draw or not. I feel like I'm the only person excited to see Kevin Knight in a pay-per-view main event and it feels inspired. You're not alone, brother. I think you and me. I've been completely fine with this. We'll talk about it in a few. I do want to get this stuff off my chest before we move on. There was a lovely article that showed up today on July 23rd, on Thursday, the day that we're recording this, on the Hollywood Reporter, which is an industry rag. In pro wrestling, we have dirt sheets, and Hollywood, the entertainment business, they have rags. They have the rags. So the dirt sheets and the rags, and it all feels scummy. Anyway, the Hollywood Reporter had this article pop up today that read, and I read, and this we're going to read the full article here. Sirius XM adding WWE channel with live coverage of premium events. And this is an exclusive on their part. You see what I mean? When it comes to the business part of pro wrestling, it will always be these outlets that will get the exclusive. It's not going to be our little wrestling media. It never will be. It's like that guy who reported, that what was the thing? Reported that WWE is going to be sold to the Saudis, right? A couple of years ago when they were doing the sale thing. This is like one of us, one of our wrestling media. And boy, did he get that wrong. And boy, did he fuck some things up. Because when that started making the rounds, remember, stock prices sort of started dipping and whatnot. No, it wasn't great. But see, anything that has any real significance, not like fucking AJ Lee tells us that, she doesn't kiss CM Punk on TV to avoid fetishists writing weird art about them. And I'm like, see, that's not news, but that's what our wrestling media delivers, right? That's what they put on their front pages of their websites. So let's read the article now. The WWE is about to body slam SiriusXM. Boo! Boo! my kingdom for a wrestling related mainstream media news article that doesn't try to do wrestling puns. The satellite radio giant has inked a deal with the TKO-owned wrestling company to launch a new station, WWE Radio, which will include live audio coverage of the WWE's premium live events like WrestleMania, select weekly episodes, as well as a slew of ancillary programming. WWE Radio will take over Channel 156 starting July 27, which has been Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7. The launch comes ahead of WWE SummerSlam, one of the company's signature PLEs, which will be available on the channel with Vic Joseph and Booker T calling it for audio, as well as other programming leading up to the event. WWE podcasts produced in partnership with fanatics like What Do You Want to Talk About, hosted by Cody Rhodes, 6 Feet Under with The Undertaker, What's Your Story with Steph McMahon, so cringe, and WWE Now, Raw Recap, hosted by Sam Roberts and Megan Moran, will run on the channel, as well as will some, excuse me, I lost my mind there for a second, as will some of Sirius XM's existing wrestling shows, including its longtime flagship show, Busted Open. Hosts Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Mark Henry, and Nick Nemeth. Not Sam Wrestling Live, which is Sam Roberts' show. Cheap Heat Live, which is Pete Rosenberg's show. The Heartbeat with Natalia, and Off the Ropes, hosted by Raj Desi, Mark Henry, and Tommy Dreamer. Alex Varga, Executive Vice President of WWE, said, "The WWE Universe is always looking for new ways to engage with WWE, and our partnership with SiriusXM will deliver exclusive access, original programming, and live event coverage that brings fans closer to the action wherever they are." We are thrilled to team up with WWE to launch the most comprehensive wrestling audio platform in the industry, said Jared Fox, Senior Vice President, Sports, Programming, Content, Marketing, and Partnerships for SiriusXM. By bringing together SiriusXM's live pro wrestling programming with WWE's world-class events, we are delivering an unmatched 24/7 home for the WWE universe, giving fans a way to tune in to every match and stay connected with every storyline from anywhere they want to listen. I can't begin to tell you how exhausting this news is. How incredibly exhausting this news is. Where do we look? Quick note here. Quick note. The SummerSlam being called for audio, right? I guess it's a sidecast, right? Not necessarily a sidecast, but calling it for radio. Do you remember 3 years ago, WWE entered a partnership with Twitch, the streaming platform, right? And they put out the press release and everything and saying, hey, we're developing sidecasts now. So that will air on the WWE Twitch channel alongside, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, and we'll have guests come in, and there'll be wrestlers there doing commentary and so on and so forth. And that lasted a month because no one fucking watched it. I'm wondering who will be listening to SummerSlam on the radio. And not only listening to SummerSlam on the radio, listening to Vic Joseph and Booker T, inarguably the worst commentary booth in all of professional wrestling today. And you can sit there and you can say, oh, Booker T's funny. Booker T is exhausting to listen to. Exhausting. He brings nothing. It's insipid, empty bullshit that he brings to the table. And he overpowers everything that's happening on the show. And Vic, let me tell you, how long has Vic Joseph been with the company? I think there's a reason why he's still calling NXT. I think there's a reason that he hasn't been called up. That while they were looking for an announcer from Monday Night Raw, his name never appeared on the list. Anywho, it sounds terrible, and I don't know who. I don't know who's into that. Like I don't understand who wants that. So Busted Open is going to be on the WWE radio thing, and boy, they're proud of it, right? Oh my goodness, Dave LaGreca even put out a nice little vertical video here for all the social media aficionados to get into, promising that, do you think I'm going to stop ranting? No. You think I'm going to stop being myself? No. He stopped short of saying, do you think I'm going to stop covering wrestling from elsewhere? No, he never. That was never brought up. This should come to no one's surprise, right? Busted Open had been quietly absorbed to a degree to WWE for years, right? It's been co-opted for a while now. It was just very informal, and they always lived under the auspice that, oh, well, it's not outright, it's not official, it's not clear, so you're being a conspiracy theorist or a hater if you're saying that the Busted Open radio guys are talking, only talk about WWE and only like WWE. Look, they're having MJF on. Look, Thunder Rosa's a regular guest, so they can't be just like biased. And I'm like, okay, sure. Just because they're showing the auspice of something doesn't necessarily mean that it is true. It's a little something that you might be, you call it misdirection. A lot of workers are good, but I think professional wrestlers are pretty good at this thing called misdirection. And look, you'd have to be pretty dense to not think that this was that Busted Open wasn't already a house organ, right? Bubba Ray, he's the WWE Hall of Famer, and he's been on WWE TV. He does the Legends and Future Geeks show. He does, he showed up on NXT with LaGreca, right? These are not journalists. These are not unbiased individuals. These are people, who are contracted, who receive money. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. That doesn't make sense, right? So, but it's just the idea that always was infuriating with Busted Open is that it gave itself the pretense that it wasn't just, oh, we're not pro WWE. It's just our favorite. It's just, it's not something, they gave themselves the pretense that they covered everything in wrestling, right? So then they opened their Pro Wrestling Nation, right, thing, which is just about a year old too. June 2025 is when they launched that. And when they described it, quote here, this is how they described it. The only channel dedicated to the world of pro wrestling. Live daily shows covering everything that's going on in WWE, TNA, AEW, the Indies, and more. Hey, I want you to tell me when's the last time you listened to Busted Open Radio and they started talking about a GCW show? When did they ever talk about the big produce shows coming up, right? From the Orange Crush guy. They talked about, you know why they talked about TNA? Because Nick Nemeth is on the fucking show. And you know why they like to talk about TNA? Because of the synergy with WWE. That was the pitch. Broad coverage, right? Everyone gets talked about. And now, a little over a year later, it just becomes WWE radio. No more pretense. So you don't have to wait and see what the programming is going to look like to know what that is going to end up looking like. It's not going to be a one-stop shop for everything in the world of professional wrestling. It's going to be a one-stop shop for WWE, wall-to-wall WWE. We know this. You can't escape this. La Greca did not mention anything about continuing coverage of other wrestling promotions. It's all going to be WWE. All he could talk about was WWE, and we're going to start the radio simulcast with SummerSlam. And who could believe that we started this show years ago, one guy once a week, and now we're this? And like, oh my God. Okay. The one show that used to have at least gesture at balance, right? Busted Open After Dark, which is the one that reacted to AEW Dynamite every Wednesday. And that's probably going to change format. That's, everything's going to be overrun by WWE's own in-house podcasts and recap shows. They're not going to start promoting things from the competition. And the funny thing is that this isn't even the first time that WWE has done this. Back in 1993, they ran Radio WWF, right? It was with Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon. And that didn't even last a year. But the pretense, this is the thing that ultimately now I'm kind of like, but it was the pretense that, oh no, we're fair and impartial, we cover everything, while you're also clearly co-opted. Well, you're clearly also all co-opted by WWE, and if not WWE, directly by your unblinking love for WWE, the thing that you grew up with and that you're madly in love with. They're like Bubba Ray, the guy, the promotion that has always paid you the most money. At least the pretense is gone. At least now, right now, we can say with our full chest, Busted Open Radio is a WWE shill. They are co-opted media. They are a house organ. They belong to WWE. It's their thing now. There's no pretense of unbiasedness. There's none of that. Just going to continue on talking about WWE and putting that over as if it's the only thing that exists, right? And Jim Ross was on his podcast in the Conrad Verse, right? And he flat, like, what was it, like 2 days ago? What fucking timing on this? He was talking about how there's only, most media just talks about WWE. Here's the quote. Direct quote from Jim Ross here. It's all about WWE, everything. And I don't know how they get by with that. This is certainly kind of a head scratcher to me that it's just turned, and he's talking about Busted Open here specifically, that it's turned into a WWE infomercial. Spread the wealth around a little bit. There's more than one wrestling company in the world that has some significance. Now, of course, JR is an AEW employee, but we also know that JR has never been afraid to speak his mind when there's things that he doesn't like, whether he works for a company or not. I mean, he used to do it on occasion with the Ross Report when he was with WWE, and that got him into trouble in a couple of occasions. He would do it live on AEW television, just outright, you could tell he didn't like Riho, right? He didn't like her, and he made that known in his own special way, but he never really shied away from speaking his mind, even though he was employed by the person or the company that he was criticizing. Anyway, good call on JR for popping that one before this. Anyway, whatever you think about Busted Open Radio, whether you like the show or not, whether you like any of the other shows on Pro Wrestling Nation now, Pro Wrestling Now, whatever it's called, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. One of the biggest media voices in the entire industry, and this is what's frustrating, and I would even argue the biggest media voice in the entire wrestling media space, for all intents and purposes, has become a house organ. And you cannot trust it to cover the business independently because WWE cuts them a paycheck now. I mean, like I said, all of these shows, Sam Roberts, Rosenberg, these were all people who are constantly on WWE TV. What do you think they're going to do? And a guy like Pete Rosenberg has been a hardcore WWE fan all his life. This is all he's ever wanted, to walk around and say, oh yeah, I'm on WWE, and feel like a big shot. This is all he ever wanted. So at the very least, like I said, and I'll say it again, the pretense is all gone. They have nothing to defend themselves with. They cannot call you haters. You cannot say, oh, well, no, this is co-opted WWE media. WWE owns them, gives them their airtime. They belong to WWE, and they will toe the line. I don't know if anyone thinks that these guys and gals are special and that they'll get some kind of preferential treatment. No, you can continue to talk about Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega and Swerve. Fuck no. That's it. No more Tony Storm talk. That's it. We're done. And here's the thing. The WWE getting its hands on some media, it's not this channel, right? If you recall, not that long ago, back in March, and we talked about it here on the podcast, WWE established a content partnership with Front Office Sports, right? Put out a press release and everything. And I was one of those with my hands on my head going, what the fuck is going on here? And if Rich Craich over at Voices of Wrestling, he put out an article today going through a lot of these details here, specifically in regards to Front Office Sports. If you search Front Office Sports' own site for AEW coverage in 2026, there's essentially nothing there. Their old AEW tag page apparently just redirects to the homepage now. Meanwhile, the WWE tag page, that works just fine. And there was an example of a Front Office Sports piece where on WWE's Triple Mania airing on YouTube that essentially read like a press release with with someone's byline slapped onto it. You should read Rich's article. It's very good. And this is a problem. And this is why WWE does this. And it's not complicated why they do it, right? I don't think, it's not a complicated thing. WWE understands something that a lot of fans don't give them enough credit for understanding, and that is owning the media conversation, right? That's what matters the most. It matters about as much as owning the shows themselves. If you control enough of the people talking about wrestling, you control the story. You become the only thing to hear about. So no matter what's actually happening within the world of professional wrestling, if all you hear about is WWE, well, that's all you're going to know, right? And that's what WWE wants. That's why WWE running Great American Bash on the same night as Forbidden Door back in June was done. That's why they're running Heat Wave and a AAA show against Wembley Stadium in August. And that's why they're running Worlds Collide against All Out in September. It's not because they want to, it's not because they want to necessarily hurt the business of AEW specifically. That's a nice thing that if they can do it, but what they want most importantly is they want the media to cover their stuff. They want, on days where AEW could be controlling, could be the only thing out there getting traction, being shared, showing up on social media, WWE will also have their little AAA and NXT shows coming in to muck up the waters and also be part of the conversation and sort of level off all of the attention that AEW could be getting for what they're doing. That's why they do it. That's why they're creating WWE Radio on Sirius XM. It's to continue that and to make sure that on the airwaves of Sirius XM, there is no more any talk of All Elite Wrestling. Do I actually believe Worlds Collide is going to hurt All Out's business, right? No, of course not. That's not the goal. The goal is mind share. Because it's not about the two shows happening at the same time. It's about like I said, every wrestling news site, aggregator, social media account that covers the industry. Now they've got two shows to cover. And for Wembley, they're going to have three. So they're splitting their attention across the same night. The attention is not entirely focused on AEW. So instead of an AEW pay-per-view getting the full spotlight of wrestling media coverage, that attention gets fractured. Some of it is going to go to Worlds Collide, well, and whatever WWE decides to pull that day, and AEW will also get its part as well, but they're going to lose slivers of mind share. That's the strategy. That's the strategy. If you can hurt the business, okay, that's good. But their strategy here, by using their sub-brands that they clearly don't give a shit about, it's competing for room inside people's heads, not people in the rooms. Now they own a chunk of the actual megaphone on top of that, right? It's the exact same playbook, the WWE radio. It's the exact same playbook, just pointed at a different target. Instead of splitting fan attention across two shows or three shows or four shows, they're making sure that one of the biggest wrestling audio platforms in the industry answers to them directly. So, for the rest of us who like a little mix of things, who like some honest coverage, who like some diversity in the coverage, we've lost again. But what did we really lose? Busted Open Radio was already co-opted by a decision from its owner, right? La Greca was completely okay doing WWE's bidding and using up their talking points and then being invited on TV and stuff like that. He is very, very comfortable with that. It's been co-opted for a while. Like I said, the big news is that the pretense is no longer there. But we are the hardcores, we are the hardcores. We're not the people who just are driving to work and turn this on, which is what most people do with Busted Open Radio, right? That's what they do. And it's not for hardcores, but you're eliminating the capacity for people to learn more about professional wrestling. And it's not just a WWE versus AEW thing. You're removing the capacity for people to learn more about professional wrestling. Instead, what you're going to get is this sports entertainment spectacular, which is WWE, and people are going to believe that that's all there is and that that's the best because that's all they hear about. That's all there is to it. I mean, look, it's not new. It's not reserved to professional wrestling either. Corporations partner their way into outlets that are, supposed to cover them honestly, or just outright buy them, and everyone goes, because it's normal now, because it's been normalized. But just because it's normal doesn't mean it's fine. And it should bother you. Bothers me. Bothers the fuck out of me. But you know what that means? That means it's opportunity. It's opportunity for other sites for other creators, for other voices to step up and fill the void. And there's a lot of them that are already out there, Voice of Wrestling, obviously, Post, what's left of The Observer, and a bunch of individual creators as well. We've got The Torch. There's a lot of stuff that's still possible out there. There are opportunities, but who can raise it up to the point of being able to get into mass media like WWE is in, right? That's more difficult. That's harder. But that's why independent media is more important than ever, not just in wrestling, everywhere. Anyway, that's the long and short of it. And I'm glad that Busted Open Radio now are just flying with their full colors, very clear for everyone to see. At what point do we call out independent wrestling news sources like The Observer and Fightful for giving coverage to these WWE shows whose sole purpose is to rat fuck the news cycle? I have trouble condemning outright. I don't have to like it, but I have trouble condemning it as well, because outside of any arguments that you can have where it's like, oh, it's not the talent's fault and it's the talent that's being put forward, and if you don't do it, it penalizes the talent. That's a tightrope walk type of argument that I'm not necessarily interested in doing right now, especially alone. I feel like it's something that I'd like to talk with someone or debate about. But the reason why I have trouble condemning it outright is because of the nature of online media today. It's really all about advertisements and clicks, and that's how people make money. So if you, as a website, decide to completely scratch off all coverage from WWE, for instance, well, you are going to lose, whether you like them or not. That is the number one wrestling promotion in the world. You're cutting yourself off from a huge potential audience. It's maybe not the move if you want growth, if you want to be able to improve and hire more people. Growth, essentially, right? Because that's also the thing. The growth economy. That's what you have to do. So I have trouble. Outright saying, this is bullshit, right? And then again, your role as a news site is to cover the world of wrestling. So even if these are shitty tactics, it's still wrestling going on, and it has to be documented and it has to be talked about. It should just be covered in its own, it should be covered with the context, like anything should, regardless, right? Everything should be covered with the context. So, when you're doing your reviews for, Worlds Collide, that's going to be run at the same time and in the same city as World's End, as All Out, then I think responsible coverage begins and ends with, well, this is WWE throwing NXT to the wolves to try and take a bite out of AEW for these reasons. But that's where I think responsible coverage begins, where it falls apart, where then you can condemn it, is if there's no mention at all. It's like, let's start our review. Oh boy, can't wait to talk about Mr. Iguana versus El Grande Americano. I don't know what's going on over there. I was going to say Pagano. Is Pagano there? Pagano's there, right? I wasn't sure. You know, like that would add a level of honesty to it and would add some context. Because these shows, that's important. These things are important to point out. The context in which these shows, can you imagine, let's just say, people nowadays cover the WCW North Korea show from back in the 90s, and no one talks about the context on how this happened, right? That would be unfathomable today. You couldn't do that. You couldn't just say, oh yeah, it was this tremendous show. North Korea was really great. Like, it was in Pyongyang, was probably the biggest attended wrestling show of all time. If you don't add the context as to why the attendance was so huge, it's not because North Korea is a hotbed for wrestling, it's because everyone was threatened at gunpoint, practically. I'm exaggerating, you know what I mean. I think these are important. This is significant. These are important things to bring up as well, and should be part of the thoughts that you put in. You know, so it's not necessarily a question of, should they cover it or not, but more like this is the context in which it exists. It's like the Saudi shows. The Saudi shows now are just treated like, yeah, you're humdrum, run-of-the-mill wrestling shows, right? And everyone will do their previews and will get on with it. Now it's like no one cares about the human rights issue in Saudi Arabia. It's exhausting, right? Like one wrestling writer famously said, you know, something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing, but man, covering all of this all of this bad shit in wrestling is really exhausting. Okay, that's still your job. No pity there. And you know, like John Pollock, when he previewed, what was it? Was it Royal Rumble that they built? It was Royal Rumble, right? When they built the stadium, it was a temporary stadium. John Pollock, in his preview, he had reported about it previously, but in his preview, he included the fact that, you know, there's allegations that slave labor was used to build this on time, and you know, this is going to be a construction that's going to be torn down, and so on and so forth. Like, he added that context to begin his preview instead of just going, "Hey, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, it's going to be a good time. Royal Rumble, who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Who's going to be number 30? Who's going to be number 29? Like, you know, it's like he approaches this in a way where you understand that the story is not is a little bigger than your dopey wrestling show, and you can't get away by saying, oh, it's just wrestling, when this is $1 billion industry. $1 billion industry, even $1 million industry, demands scrutiny. This is normal. It should demand scrutiny. So I don't have an issue with this. I don't have an issue with, adding some of the bad stuff into your fun stuff if the bad stuff is really bad. And you should know about the bad stuff. And it should make you feel bad for listening to that or watching it or whatever. Anyway. So I guess the short version to my answer is I can't outright reject them for doing it, because that's the economics of running a website online in 2026. You got to go for the clicks. I can't blame him for doing the coverage, but I think there is a responsible way of doing the coverage. I think there's responsible ways of doing it. That's right, the number go up economy. Corey, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. The problem is that the economics don't support good coverage on these things. They support clickbait put out by minimal effort, increasingly by AI. I mean, yes. Who could have seen this coming? I honestly think this will hurt non-AEW brands more than AEW, indies, international brands, etc. that might have benefited from the exposure won't get it. I don't think Busted Open exposure helped AEW. I don't think it helped. No, because they would constantly bury it, and they, anyway, not constantly, but they were highly negative on it. No, I think I think that I don't think even indies would benefit from Busted Open, because look, here's Busted Open Radio in the past few years decided to pivot to cultivate a WWE first audience. And the WWE first audience watches nothing else. Nothing. They don't even watch TNA, and they had this incredible partnership. So they don't watch anything else that doesn't air on a Monday or a Friday night, and then maybe once a month on a Saturday. Otherwise, they don't watch anything else. So let's say Busted Open Radio decided to interview a few years ago the Deadlock Pro guys to talk about Deadlock Pro. It wouldn't have done anything. Wouldn't have changed a thing, because the listeners want to hear talk about Cody Rhodes and CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and what's Roman going to do next, and what's the OTC QB1 going to do now and this season, and what about the disruptor and all that shit. That's what they want. They don't want to talk about the indies. That's a choice that Busted Open Radio did, and the only really good thing that comes out of it is that Busted Open Radio can drop the pretense of being like this place where wrestling thrives, and just be like, no, we're doing what we've always done, what we've always preferred, and that is to talk about WWE. That's what we want. That's our promotion of choice, type of thing. They don't have to go any further than that. And I'm sure they're going to be really happy about that they don't have to talk about things that they don't watch. Anywho, there you go. Thank you all very much for being here. We're not done yet. I'm just thanking you for being here. Leave a like on the stream if you can, if you will, if you shall, if you must. I demand it. Should we preview AEW Redemption? We'll pull this up here. There we go. We'll just have the little graphic here. It's a nice graphic. They did it on. They went and get the Quebec provincial colors. They went and got the Quebec provincial colors like spot on. They got the blue, the white, got the little fleur de lis there in the middle. It's tailored for us. It's tailored for people in my province. It's made for us. It's for no one else. I don't have the card pulled up. Why do I not have the card pulled up? Am I a dope? I believe so. There we go. I think I got it here. There we go. I think it's up to date. It looks up to date. So let's preview this card. Let's preview AEW Redemption happening on Sunday, July 26, 2026 at the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Hey, by the way, Slam Hub Wrestling, nice to see you and welcome to the chat. Is there a Quebec way of pronouncing redemption? Yeah, we talked about it not that long ago because when we were talking about the name, redemption, and people thought it was like, oh, that's a very average name, but here's the thing, is that redemption is the same word in French, and it means exactly the same thing. So very clever, in fact, to have thought of a title that could flip between English and French very, very easily, so that when French media is talking about it, they can say Redemption instead of just redemption. You know, redemption is what they'd probably, but they'll call it. They'll call it Redemption. That'll be the name. Like it's not the greatest pay-per-view name, but it's a good one that flips between English and French very, very easily, and I'm sure that was considered. If not, I'm giving them too much credit. And we should blame MJF. There's a lot of talk around this card about how it feels rushed, about how there's no real builds, about how there's no big matches, about it coming across as a cash grab. And on various levels, I agree and I disagree with a lot of those statements. But the main operative feeling, I think, is that everyone sort of has now that we're just a few days away is this, could we have done without this pay-per-view since we're heading into Wembley? We just practically came out of Forbidden Door just 3 weeks ago. Do we really have to get to a pay-per-view as we go to Wembley Stadium? And I would say overall, the answer, I think, is yeah, it is kind of unnecessary. It's kind of unnecessary, and AEW ended up making us feel like it is unnecessary. Now, I know and I understand that the main event was supposed to be MJF versus Kenny Omega, which is a big-time main event match, and big-time main event enough to be the central focus of a pay-per-view where you could just fill in pretty much anything else on the card. But the main event, Kenny versus MJF, under the auspice, the expectation that Kenny's going to win the world title again. Holy shit. Yeah, no, like that becomes an event. And that was the plan from all intents and purposes. That was the plan until, it was pushed back to Beach Break. Again, it's all MJF's fault. It's all his fault. Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling, by the way. Welcome to the chat, the sweetest of all the members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. So I don't necessarily consider it to be necessary. I really don't. I feel like I feel like a pay-per-view-less cycle from Forbidden Door to Wembley, I think would have been a lot of fun, because it kind of reminds me of when we get to the start of the year, right? We've been experiencing this for the past 2 years with AEW. You get the World's End pay-per-view, right? There's no pay-per-views in January, and the next pay-per-view that comes up is Revolution. So you have a nice big chunk of time where there's jack shit going on. There's no pay-per-views. And the past 2 years, each kickoff to the year, both years consecutively, have been so good. They've been really, really, really tremendous that you sort of ask yourself, well, that that you, not that you ask yourself, but you take a look and you're like, holy shit, look at this great story they've been telling over all of these weeks. And that's going to lead us into Revolution, which is, 7 weeks later or whatever. Like this year, the whole story around the world title? You kidding me? MJF wins it. And then we start having contenders popping up everywhere, and they have like an unsung tournament amongst themselves to try and figure out who's going to be the number one contender and whatnot. Christ, that was awesome. Like that was legitimately awesome. The start of this year in AEW was phenomenal, and it carried forward. So what I'm trying to say is that I have complete confidence in AEW setting out a path over multiple weeks where there's no pay-per-view interruptions, where they're just building to one thing. And the one thing they should be building to is Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. That's the big match. That's the match that's going to put the proverbial butts in seats in Wembley Stadium. That's what's going to happen. Now, they have they've pulled the trigger on it. It was a good idea to start Kenny's reign earlier. I think that was a good idea, right? But this little interruption, it feels like a little too much. It feels like it's unnecessary. And you're like, why aren't we just laser focused on the other thing? Because you want to put asses in seats in Wembley. You cannot have an empty Wembley Stadium. This is in like an 80, 90,000 seat arena. You need a lot of people to make it look full, to make it feel like a big event, to make it feel full. Now, since Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega was crystallized, they've been selling many more tickets. Like the expectation is that they're going to get to 40,000. And if they drive this hard enough, they might even get to 50. So is redemption too much in that circumstance, right? I was listening to Joe Lanza before coming on today, and Joe was basically, his point was like, yeah, it's useless from maybe a creative stance, but from a financial stance, he like did some napkin math and estimating some numbers and whatnot, and he said a show like Redemption can make like $3 million even if it's a bust, even if it's even if the arena's not full, even if it's the lowest, even if it's in the low range, I should say, of pay-per-view buys, it with merch and ticket sales and whatnot, it can be like a $3 million show. And like you said, $3 million is the salary of one of your top people for the year, type of thing. Yeah. Monetary, maybe it's monetary considerations that are motivating this more than anything else. And yeah, makes sense. But is it at the expense of creative? Aha! Well, it is the lifelong, the eternal struggle between creating and making money. Sometimes they butt heads. I don't know why I was doing this, but sometimes they butt heads. They clash. They're like those rams that you see on the mountains, right? Those mountain goats. They're not rams. They're mountain goats. They're on the side of the mountains, like in the Rockies, and they start butting heads with each other. And they butt each other's heads so hard that it fucking echoes off of the mountains, right? It goes clock, 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 clock. You're like, Jesus Christ, fellas. It's all right. Whatever you're mad about, you can't be that serious. Anywho. So overall, I do agree that Redemption feels a little superfluous. But now that we're here, now that it's booked, now that we have it right before our eyes, am I dismissing it? Am I poo-pooing it? No. Am I excited for it? Probably a little more than most people are. I think there's some really solid stuff on this card that I'm very, very excited to see. Does it come across as absolutely predictable? Yes, 100%. Like what? Like the main matches here on this card are 100%. You can absolutely see. You can absolutely see the finishes a mile away. Like there's not much wiggle room in the main event, for instance, for you to try and convince me that Kevin Knight might walk out AEW World Championship. In fact, I'm going to be bold here. I think there's nothing you can tell me to convince me, that will convince me, that Kevin Knight has a chance of becoming AEW World Champion at Redemption. I don't think there's a single solitary chance, unless a fluke, right? Fluke win, Kenny gets hurt, whatever the fuck, right? We've seen this kind of shit happen before. But that's it. Like that's the, like there's no creative decision that has happened in this company where everyone has sat around the table and has said, "Hey, you know what? What if Kevin Knight wins?" No one. And if it does happen, if Kevin Knight does win, well, we can blame the head booker, MJF. I think I've covered pretty much all of my overall thoughts, right? Unnecessary show. They would have probably been better served focusing on Wembley all of these weeks without an extra pay-per-view, and I think they would have pulled it off dramatically well because they showed over they've shown us there's precedent to them booking long strips of wrestling without pay-per-view. There's long strips of them booking without pay-per-view that just turned out to be excellent stuff. I would have felt very confident going into Wembley. Now, this is not the case. And I'm still looking forward to the show. Not just because I'm going to be there. Not just because I live, a couple of hours out of Montreal and I'm kind of like, hey, we got to stay positive and make sure that AEW comes back so we can't shit on it too much, kind of thing. Because look, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't like it. I hope you all believe me when I say that if I had legitimate problems with this card, I'd let you know whether it's in my backyard or not, right? Hopefully, hopefully I'm not holding back out of fear that Tony will punish us and never come back to Montreal. That's what I'm hoping here. But we're going to get into the card. We're going to make this happen here. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. And all the matches are all fucking jumbled. How do they even order these things? Like Kenny Omega versus Kevin Knight is the third match listed. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? How am I supposed to do something coherent here if I can't have everything like in a plausible order? Is it better on Cage Match? But because you see that sometimes, then the thing is that sometimes on Cage Match, the events aren't exactly up to date. So there's matches missing. I think everything's there. All right, let's give it a shot. I think everything is there. 10 matches. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're good. So we'll use what's on Cage Match. And if I forget anything, it's Cage Match's fault. Look, tonight we either blame MJF or Cage Match. I am completely pristine and without fault here tonight. I wash my hands of everything. Big Man Dogs, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Now let's see what you guys and gals and non-binary pals are talking about before we move forward here. I feel like a show with a card that looks cool for $40 is plenty fine for me. I know I'm going to have a fun Sunday night because of great pro wrestling, and that's enough. I mean, you never bet against an AEW pay-per-view, right? Are we still good to hit up Kama Sutra Club after Redemption? I didn't think we'd be bringing this up on air. Yeah, the fucking dummy reads it on. He reads it out of his chat too, you know. This redemption card feels like it would have been a great fit for a Battle of the Belts. Oh, don't get me on a Battle of the Belts spiel here. The greatest disappointment in the history of AEW. Everything that it could have been, it chose not to be. I think candidly a part of having the best roster of all time is that you need some B pay-per-views just to give some of these guys matches. It's fair. RJCD finally gets a graphic at the end of the pay-per-view. Send the crowd home happy. Send the crowd home crowd happy. Send the crowd home happy. Anyway. And we don't give a shit about RJ City in Montreal. What are you talking about? I think there's going to be a big twist or a debut or a return because it's so unlike Tony to tease something and then not have a gigantic make good if he can't do it. I think Swerve is showing up at this show. Tony hinted at massive. At the very least. There's a lot of WWE 90-day people who are, their contracts are up, but not the New Day just yet, folks. The New Day are not ready yet. Which is a shame because I really think that if you announce the New Day for Wembley, that would push tickets. 100%. I am 100% convinced that you announce Austin Creed and what is Kofi Kingston going to be called? What's he going to be called? Anyway. And Kofi, you announce those two for Wembley. And there's a bunch of extra tickets, like, you know, the more laid back casual fans, you know, like, oi, the New Day are coming to Wembley Stadium. Oi, I am going to the shops to purchase a ticket. Big Man Dogs, save me. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I'll probably watch the show the day after and pick my spots in terms of what to watch. Not super hyped for this show. Bucks versus Mox and Ospreay does feel like a big deal because Ospreay will have to definitely pick a side between Kenny and Mox. Yeah. Yes. Kyrie coming after Tekla for her war on Japan. These are all very interesting. Kofi in all caps. Or you do the Kofi X Kingston. You know, let's bring it all back. Kofi X Kingston. That'd be tremendous. We could do that too, right? Okay, let's preview this card. Christ, it's 9:30. We have it. Yeah, there's other stuff I'd like to talk about. Let's do this. Main event, Kenny Omega versus Kevin Knight for the AEW World Championship. Yeah, I mean, Kenny Omega is winning. You know, I don't know what the betting odds are, but they are probably like disgustingly bad. You know, if you bet the house on Kevin Knight, you're a fool. You don't lose your house. Of course, I'm not a betting man, and this is not actual advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, there's no way Kenny Omega is not walking out of there with the world championship. This, you know, the path is clear, but that's also not the point. The point here is that we've got Kevin Knight, who is extremely well liked backstage, who is also very much liked by Tony Khan. Like, this is a guy that everyone wants to see succeed. Kyle Fletcher is another guy that everyone wants to see succeed. Let me put it to you this way. In a world where people complain that the world champions are all too old and they're not pushing new guys and it's always the same 4 or 5 people in succession, I want to make goddamn sure that the people who are complaining about that aren't the same people complaining about this main event. Because yes, the die is cast when it comes to Kevin Knight's loss to Kenny Omega, right? That's inevitable. But we are still promoting a new guy, completely unproven, into a main event spot with one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in a world championship match. A guy who joined the company a little over a year ago 14 months, 15 months, something like that, and who has risen to this stage in popularity with the fans and for his work ethic and for just being a cool dude. People backstage really fucking like Kevin Knight. Everyone sees the potential in Kevin Knight and they want him to succeed. There is such a thing as losing up in pro wrestling. And I think this is going to be potentially that kind of spot for Kevin Knight. This is something that moving forward, this is a test. This is a test for Kevin, but not in the test where it's like, we're throwing him in the deep end and we'll see what happens. I don't think it's that kind of test. I think everyone in the company realizes that, well, Kenny needs a defense. We need to do something. Why not try out Kevin Knight and, just have him wet his beak, so to speak. They did the same thing with Kyle Fletcher and Hangman last year. Not exactly in the same context, but, the Hangman's first, was it his first or his second defense was against Kyle Fletcher? It didn't hurt Kyle in the least. It's not going to hurt Kevin Knight in the least either. And it'll be really interesting to see how he performs under this kind of pressure, under this kind of spotlight. And, we'll see what kind of business returns we get here as well. What if, Kevin Knight being in the main event attracts 150,000 people on pay-per-view, and you're like, oh, holy fuck, okay. Maybe there is something to this Kevin Knight kid, We got to start trying people out. We have, and it's not like we're trying out, I don't know, an unproven, a really... It's not as if we're throwing Hook into the situation here, right? Hook was clearly not ready for a spot like this. Kevin Knight, you're like, all right, yeah. And a guy that the company is clearly behind and wants to make something out of. It's not Anthony Bowens here. We're throwing in Kevin Knight. This makes perfect sense. If we were throwing just about anyone in here, I'd be like, okay, this is all very weird. But in his case here, it makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense. So I'm excited to see how this match is going to go. I'm excited to see how Kevin Knight is going to live up to the expectations, how he's going to shine in this spot. Very excited to see. Very, very excited to see. And yes, Kenny's winning. Like I said, there's nothing you can say that is going to convince me of Kenny Omega losing this match. There's no possible scenario. But this is interesting nonetheless. I love how Warren's English impression balances a tightrope of South London hard lad and Victorian era chimney sweep. I listen to a lot of the Decemberists, so. Kevin Knight getting a world title match in Speedball's hometown. Hell yeah. Tekla will be defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Willow Nightingale. I know there's a lot of people who are 100% sold on Willow. I'm not as confident. If only because Tekla has been so fucking great. Now, the issue we're running into if Tekla wins is that it will be a little more, it will require a little more finesse to make a Tekla versus Mercedes match feel big time and captivate fans, especially since they're going to be two heels. Two baby faces I think you can get away with, but two heels sometimes is a little more rough. And I think that my gut tells me, even though my brain says, don't discount Tekla, my brain, my gut says, nah, it's going to be Willow. It's going to be Willow. The fans are ready for it. The fans want it. They want to circle back to this feud that they have, this feud that is becoming generational to a degree. We always seem to circle back to Willow and Mercedes, and they have a really big storied history between the two. And I think that's a more compelling match. And let me say that again. It's an instantly compelling match for Wembley Stadium. Like I said, Tekla and Mercedes, you're going to have to work for it. Whereas I think Willow and Mercedes going to be like that. Instantly, AEW fans are into it. They're excited and they're going to be cheering for Willow. That's my observation. Anyway, so I would go with Willow Nightingale in this circumstance, winning the AEW Women's World Title. I think that's the play, right? I'd like to say something else. I'd like to say Tekla, but because she's been so good, and she really has been the fucking backbone of this division since she won the title. She really, really has been. Mark Davis will defend the AEW. Oh, excuse me. Before we get to Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher will be defending the AEW International title against Bandito. It'll be a nice, exciting match. This is going to be your exciting barn burner match. This is the one that's going to be rated very high by most people, including myself. I'm not trying to be dismissive here. I'm very much excited to see how this match is going to go. It's going to be high flying. It's going to be crazy. Kyle Fletcher is going to go full force. Bandito is going to go full force. It's the only way these two guys know how to operate. Kyle Fletcher retains. Because they're building the thing with Okada. They still have Takeshita in the environment, and they also have Kevin Knight hanging around. So, yeah, they've been doing with the international title what they've been doing with the world title, and that is have the champion besieged by challengers coming from all sides and even from within his own group of pals. So all of this is very, very compelling. I like it a lot. Kyle Fletcher is going to hang on to the title here. It's not going to be, once again, your Ring of Honor world champion is going to lose a singles match in an AEW ring. All six of you care. Mark Davis will defend the AEW national title against Andrade El Idolo. I'm very excited to see this. Look, I'm a big Mark Davis guy, but Andrade's winning the title, I would assume. But then again, it doesn't make sense, and I would have hated to, but you feel like Andrade's on an upswing. He just did the turn. You got to give him some gas. You got to give him some juice. I still maintain that Andrade, who for months was talking about getting a world title shot and pressing Don Callis to get a world title shot and pressing MJF saying, I'm coming after you and your world title, that the minute that he divests himself of the Don Callis family, he turns around and he goes, I'm coming for the national title, like the lowest rung mid-card title. That's what Andrade wanted to do. The guy who had world title aspirations just like a week ago before your turn. It doesn't make any sense to me. So you would think that Andrade should win, but you can also make a case to say, well, he can't win here because he's going to be going for larger gold, right? I guess. Anyway, I don't think this was particularly interesting when it comes to Andrade's character development. But I'm very intrigued about this match. These are two very hard-hitting, good workers, so I'm into it. Chris Jericho, the Painmaker, will be taking on Tommaso Ciampa in a no-holds-barred match. Look, you laughed and I laughed and we all laughed when the Painmaker showed up, and we all said, oh God, this shit is so campy. It's so cheesy. This is, Christ, Jericho, what the fuck are you doing type of thing. But I am not throwing this match away. I think if you are hand-waving this match, you are doing yourself a disservice. Chris Jericho is in an interesting spot. Ever since he returned to AEW, aka didn't get the money he wanted from TKO, he's been in a spot where he understands he's got something to prove to the AEW fans. That is something that Chris Jericho understands because he's not an idiot. So he gets that. And he's seeing the money with Tommaso Ciampa. The match they had at Beach Break was very, very good. It was a really good match. So he's in there with something to prove. Tommaso Ciampa is in there with something to prove as well, because this is a guy who came into the company and flat out, told us in one of his opening promos, said, I'm coming in here for gold. I'm going all the way to the top. This is not a guy who wants to waste away in the lower mid card. He wants to be considered at the top with the rest of the dudes. And he has proven nothing but a terrific case for Tommaso Ciampa to be considered one of the top guys of the company so far in 2026. So these are two guys that are both going to deliver and over-deliver, and they're going to do some crazy shit. And I'm not saying that this is going to be your 5-star classic and a memorable match, but I think it's going to be a lot bigger than a lot of people are than a lot of people are giving it credit for already. Because I'm seeing too many people hand waving the match, and I'm like, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. This has the potential to be really good because Jericho has been very good. Just like they might just shit the bed because Chris Jericho has been capable of doing that as well. But I feel like the odds are much higher to this being very good than the opposite. And Jericho wins. Cage and Cope will be defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against the Death Riders duo of Claudio Castagnoli and Pac. It's fine. It's fine. I don't know what to say other than, hopefully it won't be too Adam Copeland coded because he has a very particular type of match. I don't know. It'll be fine. Claudio and Pac rule. Christian rules. Moving on. The Young Bucks will be taking on Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay. I'm so excited for this match. This is the match I'm most looking forward to on the entire show. And they're going to do something to the Bucks that is going to create tension with Kenny. This is inevitable. This is what this match is going to serve. They're going to finish off the Bucks. Yeah, look, Mox and Will are winning. There's no way Will Ospreay is taking a loss on his way to Wembley, right? So they're winning, and they're going to win in a very violent way, and that's going to create some tension between Will and Kenny as early as next Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. I'm convinced. And in the meantime, we're going to have a great fucking match. What are we talking about? We got the Young Bucks, got the Jacksons, Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley. Fuck yeah. This is a match that I've seen people complain about. The old complaints. What's the story? What are they fighting for? This feels random. Fuck you. Let us have a cool match. This is a win for the cool match people. This is a win for people like me. Big fat L for the where's the story people. This rules. I don't give a shit about the story. The Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay any day of the week. That's tremendous. Pull that out of your ass. Put it on a show. I'm buying a ticket. That's awesome. I don't care about any fucking story. This is going to be a great in-ring match. There's going to be the story on top of it. The story's going to be there. It's going to be a device to help advance Kenny and Will. Cool matches, man. Sometimes I really wish Tony Khan had not fallen victim to the busted opens, to the Eric Bischoffs, to the Brian Alvarez's, who always would go, where's the story? Where's the story? Instead of just like, man, book us a cool match. It's like I talked about on the Dynamite review today. There was an era where Tony Khan would do that, where just for the hell of it, he'd be like, yeah, you know what? I'm booking Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki, and I'm putting this for free on YouTube because I don't have room on my shows to air it. And you're like, fuck yes, this rules. And then all of the baby brain morons gonna, oh, but why are they fighting? What's the story? Who gives a shit? Who is this Boo Suzuki? Who gives a shit? And he listened to those people instead of his fans who were up on their feet cheering this match on as Danielson pulled out probably one of the last great performances from Minoru Suzuki. It was tremendous. That's the Tony Khan I miss. That's what I want to see more of. Just dropping random matches like that. So this to me, that's one for the cool match club, like me. I'm a part of the cool match club. Less stories, more cool matches. Hikaru Shida will be defending the AEW TBS Championship against Maya World. Listen, all I'm going to say is this. Hikaru Shida will not be able to save a match like Mercedes Moné did, okay? It's just as simple as that. That's all. Look, after Forbidden Door, one of the things I said on the review, if I'm not mistaken, was that, look, the best thing Tony Khan can do for Maya World right now is to continue to put her on TV, give her a little push so that she can continue building sympathy from the crowd, because she has great underdog babyface energy right now, and that should be used. So, Shida is going to retain the title against a wrestler that the AEW fans immediately have an attachment to, right? But Jesus Christ, we're playing with fire here. Jesus, we're playing with fire. Again, Maya World, like I've been saying for a while now, she's a good wrestler. She's extremely green still, and she still has a lot to pick up, right? I'm sure she's looking forward to getting into a high-profile singles match where she can shake off the Mercedes match, right? I'm sure she's looking forward to this. She still has a ways to go. She's not a complete product. She hasn't found her in-ring persona yet. She hasn't found that confidence, that swag, that connection. She hasn't found it yet. And Shida, look, I've been telling you guys and gals and non-binary pals for so long now. She's washed. Yeah, she's a relic of another era. Shida can't keep up with the level that exists in the AEW women's division today. If this goes sideways for any reason, it's going to go sideways good and proper. And it's not going to be like this beautiful car wreck that World and Moné had at Forbidden Door. I'm very anxious about this match. I'm going to watch it and I'm going to review it, but I'm going to be very anxious about it. They slapped together an AEW International title #1 contendership 6-way ladder match. Oh boy. Beast Mortos, El Clone, Mike Bailey, Jack Perry, Commander, and Nick Wayne are all going to be in there. And holy fuck. Jesus Christ, pal. Mike Bailey's winning this. They're going to have Mike Bailey win in Montreal. And look, it's going to be as insane as it all sounds. Mortos and El Clone got their visa issues out of the way. I don't even know if they got their visa issues out of the way. They can work in Canada without any issues. It's not that's always been a thing. The luchadors can come to Canada anytime to work. It's not a problem. Anyway, I don't know, but it was reported that their visa issues have been worked out. Good on them, so they can continue to make a living in the U.S. and whatnot. Yeah, this is just going to be the spot fest. You know exactly what's going to happen here. And then we have the double chain tag team match where Jay White and Juice Robinson will be taking on the Dogs, Clark Connors and David Finlay. I guess this is going to be a dog collar match. Why didn't they just call it a dog collar match? Because there's the dogs in it. It would have worked. It's right there. Why are we trying to pretend that it's something else? Unless it's not a dog collar match. Guess it's not. And what is a chain match then? Like Juice was talking about tying each other up. Tying to each other, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, that should be fun. Should be fine. There you go. That's the setup for AEW Redemption this weekend. A show that I am nonetheless looking forward to. Despite it all, I'm very excited to see a lot of the outcomes here. And yes, there will probably be a surprise or two along the way. Look, Tony Khan on the call today, he spoke specifically about Swerve Strickland showing up. You know, well, he didn't say that specifically, but he did hint at it massively. You know, something's going to happen. There's going to be some stuff there. He was saying Hangman Page not too far away either. All right, come on, all right. Okay, then let's. You're dropping enough hints. I think we're starting to see where we're going here. So again, my review will happen next week. I will be on location in the Bell Center on Sunday. I will be reviewing the show on Monday, so no live stream on the YouTube channel on Monday. However, the review will be made available as soon as it's recorded to members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel as of Monday. So in early access for them and a little later on in the week for everyone else. So if you want to get in on it early, become a member. Hit that join button and become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube. Megan Bain versus Beast Mortos will be announced anytime on the 0 hour. I'd be into that big time. Don't sleep on the dog collar match. 3 of those guys have been working together for over decades. Oh, I know. I'm not going to sleep on it. I'm just like, I don't have much to add. I'm just like, well, I'm not even sure it's going to be a dog collar match. Why aren't they calling it a dog collar match then? Should have had Speedball take the TNT title off of Kevin in Montreal. Next time, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think Jericho versus Ciampa should be good because I thought their beach break match was quite great. Yeah, I'm very confident in that. Yeah. I am very, very bullish on that match. I'm telling you, Warren, Sheeta has plenty of smoke and mirrors as a heel. It won't be pretty, but she's going to get the fans behind Maya. Sure. She still stinks. Hey, Patrick, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat, member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Mox has never liked the Bucks canonically. Now he's bringing his new son into it. There's your story. I like it. There you go. Simple as that. This is definitely going to open the pay-per-view. We're talking about Mox and Ospreay versus the Bucks. I think so too. That would be a good choice. It's very, very solid choice. Or the ladder match. By the way, if Knight were to win at Redemption, that leaked MJF story would take a whole new meaning. He's not winning though. Like that, he's not gonna win. If Jericho loses, can he go to Maple Leaf Pro? Oh no. I think they're really going to need to finesse the heat in this match to get the fans 100% behind Willow. Oh, I don't. No, I think people like Tekla, but I think they like Willow more. I think they like her more. I'm so done with Willow. She missed her momentum by at least a year. I don't agree. I think this is someone you can heat up and cool down and heat up and cool down because people never stop supporting her. I'm not quite in agreement on that one. Babyface Tekla versus bad person versus babyface Tekla. really turning into like a Stone Cold Steve Austin type. Oh, that's it. That's what we had right here. We had the media call really rapidly. Just a couple of notes here. That's not the right one. This is the right one. We had a couple of notes from the media call that Tony Khan had today for Redemption. We're going to read them off of Post Wrestling just very quickly because there are a couple of interesting nuggets that did come out of it. The time thing is not interesting. Swerve Strickland. It's funny how everyone always asks, Swerve Strickland, is everything cool? You know? And Tony says, yeah, we're on good terms. And he's going to be at San Diego Comic-Con this weekend. And don't worry about it, you know, type of thing. And he'll answer more questions about Swerve after Redemption. I wonder why. There's a whole thing about AEW heels, but I've been trying to follow it on Twitter, but not on Twitter, on Blue Sky, excuse me. There's people posting about it, but I don't quite understand what's going on. I think it's a question of false promises, that heels is not, you know, AEW Heels, the program that they made, sort of a fan club, but for women only. It was Brandy Rhodes that started that off, and it sort of changed hands as it went along. And now there's kind of like nothing, and people are still being charged for it. I think that's the crux of it. But Tony was like, I don't know. I don't know about no fan clubs. I run the show. Anyway, a free agency question was asked, as well as for Sammy Guevara, Tay Mello, and Anna Jay. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Tony noted that Sammy's status hasn't changed, contrary to online speculation. I don't know why anyone thought that Sammy was fired. I don't know what he goes on. He does a podcast where he says, yeah, if you know, I'm not booked, and ask the boss as to why I'm not booked, or something to that effect, right? And then people are like, oh, he's gone. Why would it have changed? He's still active with AEW and Ring of Honor. He revealed that Sammy sent him a message saying he wasn't trying to do anything. Okay, you know, it is what it is. That doesn't mean that Sammy is. That doesn't mean Sammy is a lock to be re-signed. That's not, you know. But it's just like, for the time being, he's still very much with AEW, Ring of Honor, and I don't know why anyone doubted that. Very strange. He noted, he being Tony, that Anna Jay signed a new deal with the company, but is out with a knee injury and got an MRI. So there you go. That speculation has come to a close. She is not going to be in NXT or whatever, but she hurt herself and she's going to need an MRI. Okay, then. So there was a report that came out that Tay Mello had requested her release a year ago. Khan said that it was inaccurate. She requested it after her collision match against Divine Dominion in June this year because she wanted to step away from wrestling. He said he would grant Mello's request for release and that her relationship with AEW remains good. So Tay Mello, for all intents and purposes, is going to be done with AEW, and for what it seems, with pro wrestling as well. We've all, Tay Mello, when she got into the company, she was one of these people that everyone kind of felt was underused in NXT, was never given a proper chance. And she's always been like a nice little wrestler, but like competent. Anything that ever shook the foundations of pro wrestling or made you really like latch on. She had a great look, and she was extremely charismatic as well, which helped her a great deal, especially in the early days of AEW when the women's division was a lot more sparse than it is now. I think this is fine. And if she wants to go focus on anything else, whether it's, raising her kids, being a mom, or, other endeavors or whatnot, all the more power to her, right? If she took a step back and was like, look, I don't know how I can keep up with pro wrestling now that I've given birth and maybe my priorities have changed. Like, I don't know how I can keep up with these women, and that's fine. That's absolutely okay. And if she asks for a release on that pretext and Tony's like, yeah, sure, we'll do that for you. No problem. Well, then, okay, it's fine then. I don't have an issue, and all the more power to her. And Tony should do that kind of stuff more often. He doesn't need to have guarantees from his talent that they're not going to go wrestle elsewhere. He should just be granting releases right and left. And other than that, there really isn't anything else. In regards to MJF's absence, Tony noted that he was in a physical match against Omega and has had other hard-hitting matches. He said MJF's injuries weren't too serious and shouldn't take him out for too long. Tony said Hangman Adam Page's in-ring return feels imminent and that fans should expect to see him very soon. And a bunch of other stuff, right? Doing a Crockett Cup. Someone asked him, well, do you want to do a Crockett Cup? And I'm like, here's. It's like, And Tony ultimately was asked whether or not Omega MJF was tabbed for redemption, given the TSN promotion. He said that he had to keep, quote, some sleight of hand in these things, unquote, and was happy with how things played out. He added that he was optimistic about the WBD Paramount merger and working under David Ellison. He talked up AEW's ratings and recent pay-per-view numbers. He noted that Beach Break was the most viewed AEW show on TBS in 2 years. So those are the highlights, in my opinion, of Tony Khan's media call earlier today. Oh my goodness. Okay, one more thing, and then we'll call it a night. I know I had Natsupoi's retirement up there. We'll circle back to it. We have more than enough time to talk about it. But I do want to talk about this right here. I'm going to talk about Bayley. Are you sick about hearing about Bayley maybe going to AEW? Oh, brother, you better start muting some keywords on social media because we're not done yet. We got this article here from the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Bayley's WWE future was covered on the post-AEW Dynamite edition of Wrestling Observer Radio. Our own Dave Meltzer noted on the show that the only thing he has been told about Bayley's situation is that she has, quote-unquote, a big decision to make. And the quote that Meltzer said was, the only thing that I was told is that she has a big decision to make. Why would you print that? Anyway. Alvarez then responded to that saying, well, that tells you everything you need to know then. Her deal's coming up. Meltzer responded, well, it's not coming up for months. But I mean, again, I watched that show on Saturday, and watching that show, I thought it was a blow-off. The stuff that Lyra Valkyria has said since makes it sound like a blow-off. Maybe she's going to come back in 2 weeks and attack Lyra and keep the thing going, unquote. Meltzer and Alvarez then compared Bayley's situation to Ricochet's, who was written off of WWE programming in June 2024 after an attack from Braun Breaker. So here's Meltzer with his analysis here. With Ricochet, he had not signed his new deal, and when he kept not signing his deal, they started assuming he was gone. There were even stories out that he was gone before he decided he was gone. But he was leaning towards being gone, and in the end, he was gone. If you remember that last angle they did with him, it was done in a way where if he signed his contract, it was going to lead to a return based on that angle. Alvarez then responds to that. I think this is the exact same thing. If Bayley ends up re-signing, then there's a built-in angle with Lyra. And if she doesn't re-sign, Lyra destroyed her and send her out of the company. So I think that's exactly what's going on. Bayley re-signed with WWE in December 2012 and debuted on NXT programming in early 2013. So, like I said, we're not done talking about Bayley. And we're not done talking about Bayley here on this podcast either. I have always had a soft spot for Bayley. I thought she had a tremendous amount of potential. I think Vince McMahon being completely unable to parse Bayley's character and how it could appeal to his main roster audience was one of the larger fumbles of Vince's tenure as an impresario. One amongst many other failures. Now Now she's older. She's a little more banged up. She's also got a lot more experience. It'll be all up to her. It'll be up to her to decide what to do, right? And what kind of offer she'll get from both. Because she's going to be playing both sides off of each other. And it's going to depend just what WWE wants to do with her. Now, WWE might see no value in Bayley moving forward, saying that she's, like I said, she's too old, too banged up. We got nothing for her. And just be completely okay with her, whatever she gets offered from AEW. And they're like, oh, we're not going to be able to match that, be on your way type of thing, right? Because I'm going to repeat this. Tony Khan is going to do pretty much everything in his power to bring Bayley in, because he's probably got Mercedes in his ear saying, Bayley could do a lot here. She could help out a lot. There's a lot of ladies here who could benefit from her instructions and whatnot. Like, she started giving classes and establishing herself as being more of a mentor type, a trainer type. What if you got that inside your own company to work with some of the greener talent, right? And not only that, Mercedes and her are super tight. They're really close friends. Out of the 4 horsewomen, they're the only 2, I think, that still regularly speak with each other. So the other reason Tony will do everything that he can to bring Bayley in is to keep Mercedes happy, because he is going to do everything in his power to make sure that Mercedes does not go back to being Sasha Banks. I think he would see that as a failure to not retain Mercedes Moné. So he's going to do everything to make sure that Mercedes stays happy. And if it means hiring her best friend and bringing her in, even if Bayley is, not quite physically on the level she used to be, so be it. I'm convinced. And I don't mean this in a way where I'm disrespectful of Bayley, where I'm saying, well, the only reason she's going to get a job is because of Mercedes. What I'm saying is that the boss of the company is going to do everything to make sure Mercedes is happy. And if that means bringing in Bayley, with whom you could do a lot worse. You could do so much worse as far as talent out there to bring into the company than Davina Rose. I'd say, look, even if she is banged up and her injuries, are limiting her and whatnot, I think even a beat up Bayley is still a better get on multiple levels than, dragging like some other hires that Tony Khan has done in the past. And I'll let your imagination populate that. Men and women. Bayley comes in and she's, she feels confident. She feels good. She's with Mercedes. She feels like she can do shit again. That she's not just relegated to, filling out spots and going to work AAA because she speaks Spanish. And, she feels like she's part of a team. She's she's doing something again. Look at the talk. An interview that Ciampa gave, was it today or anyway, recently? Tommaso Ciampa gave an interview and he's talking about how in 10 years in WWE, he saw all these opportunities fly by, right? All these opportunities that were never, he never got to work with Kevin Steen. He's mentioning all these names, like never got to work with them, because they never took a chance. They never let me work with these people. And, I was willing and able. Right? And look what it did. It boiled up in him. It got all pent up to the minute that he can escape from AEW. He jumps the guardrail, comes into AEW. People go, Tommaso Ciampa. Well, I'm not quite sure. And he just blows everyone away. all the expectations are all blown away. You're like, holy fuck, where has this guy been? You know, what an utter failure on WWE's part. It's the same thing with Ricochet. We were like, what can Ricochet still do? And it turns out he's still one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Bayley has a wealth of things that she can bring to the table, right? I'd give her a shot. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? A name that is absolutely associated with WWE coming in, and what if she's suffering from Ciampa Ricochet syndrome, and that she's just waiting to uncork this Davina Rose that we haven't seen in 7 years or 10 years, or at least since Brooklyn. Because WWE doesn't want her to work this way. They try to keep her to the house style. We don't know. Now the thing, as Meltzer says, she's got to choose between the two, and it is going to be a big choice. And a lot of people might think it's a done deal, but hey, a lot of people thought the AJ Styles deal was a done deal too. Look how that turned out. You don't know what can happen like in the last few minutes. And we also know Bayley, when she saw her best friend Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado, when she saw her leave WWE and start wrestling in the Tokyo Dome and doing these shows in San Jose and all over the world, and Bayley's like, encouraging her and cheering her on. There's something deep inside her, no doubt, is like, fuck, I wish I could do that. I want to wrestle everywhere. I want to wrestle in Cork and Hall. I want to wrestle in Arena, Mexico. I want to go on little indie runs, doing these obscure indies in Europe. I want to do this too. They're cut from the same cloth. Might not be on the same level as pro wrestling goes. Anyway, it's not a done deal, and it will not be a done. No one should be saying, "Oh yeah, Bayley is absolutely showing up in AEW," until she actually walks through one of those tunnels. Okay, that's how we have to treat this situation here. Speculate all you want, have a blast, but we can't be sitting around creating expectations for each other. But for sure, Tony Khan is going to throw everything to bring her in, and that'll make Mercedes happy, and Mercedes will be that much more inclined to re-sign and stay instead of heading back to the other place. There you go. Oh yeah, and yeah, she wants to work with Statlander. They're friends too. See, again, like, who was the wrestler who said, about their choice about WWE or AEW? I could either continue working here or go to the other place and work with my friends. Like, at some point it's like, WWE does not sound like a fun place to work. Like a fun place to work at. It feels very, very heavy-handed. It doesn't sound fun. I can understand that. I've quit jobs to go work with my friends in the past. Christ, you have a 9 to 5 and you're doing your thing and you get along with your coworkers and whatnot. That's not the issue. But then one of your pals comes up and it says, "Hey, I'm starting up a business. I'm doing this. I want you to come work with me." Okay. It's going to be fun. And it was fun. Didn't regret it a second. Got those opportunities. You do them. You use them. Anyway. Give Bayley a dual contract with CMLL, and on day one, give her Persephone. There you go. Now we're talking. Bayley can still go. We're not Hikaru Shida. Hi-oh. I feel like I'm converting the masses here. Dave is unintentionally the funniest dude. Wasn't it funny though? Gone. She's going to be gone. If she thinks she's gone, next thing you know, she'll be gone. But she has to choose whether or not she decides to be gone. But when she's gone, she'll be gone. Oh boy. All right. Well, I think we're done. Because I do want to talk about. I don't want to rush Natsupoi, and we got to wrap this up for tonight. I gotta do some editing. I got stuff to do. I got a dog to go walk. I gotta hang out with my girlfriend. There's all sorts of shit I gotta do. Can't stay around with you people. Oh, here he goes. Here's the heel turn right there. He's cutting his you people promo. Oh, there you go. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out. So, quick reminder again: no stream on Monday. However, there will be an AEW. Redemption review. Hopefully, I will be able to do my daily G1 coverage on Sunday before leaving for Montreal. I'm 60% sure I'll be able to do it. Like, the odds are in my favor, but there's a significant chance I won't be able to pull it off. If I'm not able to pull it off, I will do it on Monday, along with the redemption review. Look, it'll be what it'll be, right? But hopefully I'll be able to get the G1 review out, the G1 daily coverage out on Sunday before hitting the trail for Montreal. Fingers crossed. So thank you for thinking I did a good job. I like doing good jobs, and thank you for letting me know that I've done a good job. So so there you go. I appreciate it tremendously. Thank you all very much for hanging out. Have a great rest of your week. Have an excellent weekend on top of that. Enjoy the redemption if you are planning to on watching it. Hope it's a good time. And there you go. I'll see you next time.